With more reaction on what the PCs are offering, we're joined live by Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca. Mr. Del Duca, thanks for joining us this morning. Really, there's a lot of things that are fascinating about this budget, but perhaps the most fascinating is because the legislature's now been adjourned, there won't be an opportunity to vote on this until it resumes post-election here. How significant is that the government is effectively saying this is now up to the voters to decide if you vote us back in? This is effectively, apparently, the budget that they'll be voting on.
Well, I think it's a very disturbing approach that the Ford Conservatives have taken, very gimmicky over the past number of weeks. But what I found most telling yesterday was that the finance minister would not actually make a commitment to reintroduce this same budget should the Ford Conservatives win the election, which really does raise, I think, a lot of doubts and understandable doubts amongst Ontarians about whether this is real, whether this is fiction. The bottom line, though, is that it is not a plan to move this province of ours forward. They want to continue to drag us backwards, and Ontario Liberals want to go forward and want to deliver real progress.
When you talk about that, though, if you take a look at the spending priorities of this government and you sort of lay it over polls which sort of show what voters are interested in, what Ontarians want to see, being done by governments, whether it's, working on inflation, cost of living, housing affordability, economic recovery, I think you have to acknowledge the budget does touch on significant parts of that, particularly when it comes to affordability. So if on June 2nd you become elected Premier-elect, what would you do differently? What kind of a budget would the Liberals bring in that's so much different than what the PCs have done?
Well, let me point out one thing, less so as a politician and more as a dad who has two young daughters at home who attend publicly funded schools in this province. I can't believe that the Ford Conservatives chose to cut $1.3 billion from the education budget. That's money that was budgeted that they chose not to spend. It was a cut. I think about the $2 billion again in our schools that they didn't spend in the second year of COVID versus the first year. They had an opportunity in this budget to announce that they would end for-profit long-term care and really deliver home care first in a meaningful way for our seniors, and they didn't. These are the priorities that Ontario Liberals have. I know people are facing affordability challenges right now. We recognize that. A little bit later this morning, I'll have our next announcement for how I am going to make life. We are going to make life more affordable for Ontario families with some changes that are smart and fair to our tax system. But Doug Ford doesn't get it. The people of Ontario do not want to continue to be dragged backwards by their lack of a plan. They want progress. They want hopefulness. They want optimism. That's what this new Ontario Liberal team that I'm leading will deliver.
When it comes to spending, then, would a Liberal government spend more? Like, would you go beyond sort of $200 billion in terms of deficits, in terms of the overall spending here, Mr. Del Duca? The reason I ask is because if we spend more, likely we'd have to borrow more, and we know currently, interest rates are going up, and that really takes a chunk out of the province's bottom line, all those interest payments. Would you be more financially restrained, or would you perhaps open up the spending, which some people are suggesting the PCs have spent more than expected here?
Yeah, so look, from my perspective, Nick, it's about priorities and about the values that are below or beneath those priorities. This election campaign that's coming up in about 34 days, it's about choices. And there is a stark and clear choice for Ontario families between the Ford Conservatives, who want to make the richest in this province richer. They abandon small business, they abandon workers, they've abandoned seniors repeatedly, and Ontario Liberals, who will invest in transforming senior care. We're going to end for-profit long-term care and deliver a home care first guarantee. We're going to invest in publicly funded education, including $10 billion over 4 years to make sure that our schools are in a state of good repair. We're going to make sure that we deliver the kind of affordability progress that people can count on. So a real clear choice between moving backwards with the Ford Conservatives or moving forward towards progress with Ontario Liberals.
How quickly is it possible to end for-profit long-term care?
So our plan has a target of 2028, so about 6 years to be able to do that. But here's the most important thing about our plan to revolutionize seniors care. We're going to invest $4.4 billion over 4 years so that 400,000 more seniors, people like my mom and dad, who are in their early 80s, face some challenges like a lot of our seniors do, but are currently living in their own home, so that seniors can actually have the support to remain at home, to be safe and healthy, and to have real dignity. That's a real plan for Ontario seniors who surely have earned a government support and a premier support, given that they built the province that we call home. The Ontario Liberal plan will deliver that dignity for seniors by prioritizing supporting them staying at home.
Well, we certainly saw in the latest numbers out of the census from Statistics Canada how big that population is these days. That's Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca joining us on CB24 Breakfast. Appreciate the time, Mr. Del Duca. Thanks for being here.